declare and affirm
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give.
Now in its third year, the Post Office Public Inquiry, hearing testimony on a daily basis of lives ruined.
I hadn't stolen any money, so why am I paying something that I haven't stolen? The day of sentencing, the judge accused me of stealing from old age pensioners.
Tracy Felstead at the inquiry, which is probing what's been called the greatest miscarriage of justice in British history. The sub-postmaster was only 19 when she was wrongly convicted of theft and sent to prison for 6 months, one of thousands of lives damaged. The inquiry has given us a window into the heart of the scandal, and tonight we can open it a little further. What did the Post Office executives know and when? It's been revealed that the inquiry now has 80 covertly recorded audio tapes of senior Post Office executives during this scandal. Tonight, Channel 4 News can reveal some of the contents of what was said by Susan Crichton, the then Post Office senior lawyer. The Post Office had called in forensic accountants in 2012 to investigate the scandal. A year later, those accountants issued their first report and meetings are called, which are covertly recorded. At one, the Post Office lawyer is worried about MPs in Parliament who are campaigning to clear the names of the sub-postmasters. We've obtained a summary of some of the tapes. Susan, the Post Office lawyer, refers to Paula Venables, the Post Office boss, having a meeting with James Arbuthnot, an MP, tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. And then Susan reports that Paula was concerned to shut down the MPs. There is also a record here of senior Post Office staff wishing to in some way control Alan Bates and his campaign on behalf of the sub-postmasters, Justice for Sub-Postmasters Alliance, as well as MPs. Susan, the Post Office lawyer, talks about managing the Justice for Sub-Postmasters Alliance. And then again, Susan asks if there is any way of shutting down the MPs' cases. What's meant by shutting down isn't explained. We approached both women for comment. Paula Venables declined. Susan Crichton didn't respond. But what about the other people in the room also on tape? The forensic accountant's second sight, called in by the Post Office to investigate the scandal. We asked Second Sight's co-director Ian Henderson what he made of the summary of the tapes.
The significance is it was yet another attempt by Post Office to prevent these matters being uncovered. James Arbuthnot and a small group of MPs were determined, however, that Second Sight should be allowed to investigate these matters. Post Office did not want these matters to see the light of day and to be investigated.
That's the same Post Office, of course, who called in Second Sight in the first place to investigate this whole scandal. And the more they investigated, the more they found that the problem was in the technology the Post Office was using, not the sub-postmasters at all. The Post Office would end up severing its contract with Second Sight. There is more. The summary of the covert recordings also shows Second Sight's co-director Ron Warmington failing to get vital information from the Post Office. Ron says, "We haven't received adequate information in any of the cases other than Alan Bates' own case." Ron says that in 15 out of 31 cases that we've received through the office of James Arbuthnot, we have, in effect, nothing. So no investigative work can realistically commence. Then a possible reason for holding back information is on the summary. It comes again from the Post Office senior lawyer, Susan Crichton, secretly recorded. Susan has formed the view already notified to Second Sight, the forensic investigators. Further cases should not go through the Second Sight process, but rather through a Post Office limited managed process with senior oversight. We put this to Susan Crichton and Paula Venables. Paula Venables declined to comment. Susan Crichton didn't respond.
Angela, nice to meet you.
Here to help.
The recent ITV drama featured the key Second Sight Post Office investigation. The drama matches the fact that its team remains angry about ordinary lives ruined. 2 years after Second Sight warned the Post Office that prosecutions could be unsafe, and 2 years after the Post Office's own lawyers warned them as well. Paula Venables, the Post Office CEO, said this to a select committee of MPs in 2015.
And if there had been any miscarriages of justice, it would have been really important to me in the Post Office that we actually surface those. And as the investigations have gone through, so far we've had no evidence of that. And as you'll know, we're bound by the Disclosure Act to make known anything that we come across that might contribute to that.
You're sitting next to Paula Venables in the Select Committee, and she is saying there is no evidence of miscarriages of justice. At that moment, what went through your mind?
She's lying.
To the Select Committee?
Yes.
Misleading Parliament?
Misleading Parliament.
You've no doubt of that?
No doubt whatsoever.
And her motives would be?
Cover up.
Covering up what?
The truth coming out.
The truth being?
The truth being the problems with Fujitsu, the problems with Horizon, the fact that the Post Office had known about it for many years and did very little about it, and were able to recover losses directly from sub-postmasters.
We put that opinion to Paula Venables. She declined to comment. When the inquiry started 2 years ago, Venables said she was truly sorry for the suffering caused to wrongly prosecuted sub-postmasters and their families. She fully supports the inquiry, adding that because it's still ongoing, it would be inappropriate to comment. But in the notorious case of sub-postmaster Jo Hamilton, we know the Post Office had evidence that her prosecution may not be safe, years before Paula Venables said that to Parliament. Here's the investigation report into Jo Hamilton carried out by the Post Office, marked confidential. Having analysed the Horizon printouts and accounting documentation, I was unable to find any evidence of theft, or that the cash figures had been deliberately inflated. Yet Jo Hamilton would be charged all the same. This report was sent to the Post Office in 2006. That's 9 years before Paula Venables told MPs the Post Office had no evidence of miscarriages of justice. Simply one piece of evidence of many. The Post Office declined to comment, saying it fully supports the public inquiry. As Jo Hamilton has told the world, the Post Office very clearly knew and knew for years, but that was not what it told Parliament or the postmasters.